announce that our membership figures stood at 700. Listen properly.
Thank you for viewing and also thank you for subscribing. Today I'll be providing a brief overview of the South African economy. And I'm providing this overview not because of I'm a South African or because I love South Africa. I'm providing it because I would like to, I think it's my service to the retail investor community that I inform and educate retail investors about the conditions in which the companies that we invest in operate under. So this helps retail investors to make informed decisions of whether do we want to invest in companies in South Africa or do we want to invest in companies abroad. So the contents include the beginnings of the South African economy, starting from Jan Van Riebeeck, and also some key highlights of the South African economy, and also some key strengths and some key weaknesses of the South African economy. So in South Africa there is a subject called social sciences. It's taught in from grade 1 until grade 9. And it includes, social science in South Africa is divided into two subjects, history and geography. And in history, we were taught about how Jan Van Riebeeck arrived. And when he arrived, he gave South Africans mirrors. And we gave him cows. But that's false. There's no such thing. But I'm not going to be talking about the things, just that I think it's a much more nice way of introducing how the South African economy began. So Jan Van Riebeeck arrived in South Africa in April 1652. And fast forward, the discovery of gold in 1880 in Witwatersrand made South Africa a hub, or as they call it, a gold rush, that people from Europe came into South Africa because of gold was discovered in 1880, and in 1886 diamond were discovered. And so as you can see, with the boom of the mining sector, which includes the diamond and gold industry, it allowed South Africa to be one of the largest countries in the world to distribute or to export gold during those times. So in the 1880s and 1886. And at that time, South Africa used to be the, as I've said, largest exporter of gold. However, currently, South Africa is no longer the largest exporter of gold, but it is of some other minerals, which I will be providing as we go about. But currently, the largest sector in South Africa is the finance, real estate, and business, which contributes about 37% of GDP or 31% of GDP.
Bill Gates gave me $10 million and my wife $5 million. And the partner of Bill Gates gave each one of us $7.5 million. There are times when I wish I had not got married.
The United States is the largest economy in the world. And if Africa was the world, South Africa would be the United States. That is because South Africa is the largest economy in Africa, and it contributes about 12% of GDP of total production in Africa. And it has a GDP of $380 billion. And in the world, South Africa ranks 33 out of 192 countries. And it's the world's largest producer of platinum group metals. It has about 80% of the world's reserves of PGMs. And PGMs include platinum, uranium, palladium, and all these minerals are useful in vehicles. They act as catalytic converters. In other words, they ensure that the carbon dioxide emitted by cars is minimized. And South Africa's export partners include China, the United States, and Germany. South Africa exports to China about 19% of its gross domestic product, and to the United States it exports about 8%, and to Germany about 7%. And South Africa has a population of about 64 million people and a GDP per capita of $15,990. And GDP per capita measures the gross domestic product per person. In other words, GDP per capita means GDP per person. And the government in South Africa includes 10 parties under the Government of National Unity, the ANC being the highest, the African National Congress, and the DA, the Democratic Alliance, being the second largest. And South Africa is a private and a public-led emerging market economy. So in other words, government is involved in the economy, and also businesses are involved in the economy. And it's a member of the BRICS nations, which include Russia, India, Brazil, and other countries, because there's also BRICS Plus. And also South Africa is a member of the G20, and it's considered a permanent member of the G20.
I want to assure you people and assure the country, the economy is now on.
Okay, on the key strengths of South Africa, I'll be outlining 5. So number 1 is that South Africa is the world's largest producer of platinum group metals. So as I've mentioned, they include platinum, palladium, and uranium, and all other some parts of it, but those are the main ones. So this makes South Africa stand out in the world, because the world is now moving away from, or we're trying to reduce climate change and the pollution of air. So with the PGMs playing a critical role in that process. And also, secondly, South Africa has one of the most developed financial markets in the world. And the Johannesburg Stock Exchange ranks amongst the top 20 stock exchanges in the world. And you have to imagine that there are 192 countries in the world, and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange ranks amongst the 20 best stock exchanges in the world. And also another key strength of the South Africa is that now we no longer have the Guptas running South Africa. The GNU has ensured that at least there's a balance of power, and that was evident through the VAT not being increased, whereas the ANC was suggesting that the VAT should be increased to 17%. The VAT, which obviously is the value-added tax, come on. And then the fourth strength in South Africa is that we have a diversified economy. In other words, we are not only dependent on one source of revenue. There's a whole lot of sectors in the country that ensure that we get investments. For instance, as I've said, finance, mining, and also agriculture. As currently now that it's mentioned that South Africa is the world's second producer of citrus fruits, in other words, oranges and lemons. And also South Africa has some key networks, in other words, trading partners. For instance, China, also one of the leading emerging economies, and also India, and also the United States, even though now our relationship is really breathing by the wound.
In the next financial year, you said you're going to create 840,000 jobs. How are you going to create them?
Ooh, there are so many things. Let me tell you.
And now to the weaknesses in the South African economy. Number 1, the most famous one, unemployment. and South Africa has one of the worst unemployment rates in the world. And the statistics South Africa, stats say, revealed that South Africa has a 32% unemployment rate, and that's the highest in the world. And the second weakness in the South African economy is that there is corruption. Obviously, that one does not need any explanation. There's a lot of corruption in terms of the leadership of the country, and investors are very shy then because of such weaknesses in the country to invest in. And also another challenge is Eskom. Eskom has been load shedding people, not only load shedding us with switching of flights, but also in terms of money making. If you have heard during the times when load shedding was at its peak, how much business is lost, even in a single day. So Eskom is another challenge that makes investors run away from SA, but now it's currently slowly improving. And slow economic growth is also another challenge in South Africa. Stats SA also published their findings for the 2024 GDP quarterly report that in South Africa, economic growth in last year was about 0.6%, which is the lowest amongst emerging economies. And also high debt. South Africa has a debt rate of about 77%. So let's say, for instance, in your house, you were earning a salary of about 100,000 a year, and your debts per year amounted to 77,000. So it's the same as with South Africa. We produce GDP, but the amount of debt that we pay is 77% of GDP. And also South Africa has one of the highest crime rates in the world. And in 2024, it ranked out of 192 countries, it ranked at 7th place. So we took number 7 in 2024 in terms of the highest crime rates. And obviously, who would want to do business in a country where customers can be robbed for coming into your store or into your bank? It's a risky situation. But I don't have to defend South Africa, but it's getting there. So, yeah.